Hi, I'm B from Nectar Mechanics, and in today's video, I'm going to show you my techniques to help fix loose 3D printed action figures. So, if you've ever 3D printed an action figure before, you'll know that after you pose them a few times, the joints are going to get quite loose quite quick. And I've had people ask me, how do I prevent my figures from getting loose? And, well, to keep a long story short, it's basically just superglue. There's more to it than that though, so let's take my Optimus Prime 3D prints that I did a few months ago and show you how to make him good as new. Before we begin, I do recommend that you have some additional tools to just superglue, that being a flathead screwdriver and a Q-tip. So to begin with, we're going to want to disassemble our figure as much as we can. We're going to ignore any joints that involve pins for now, but we are going to make sure that anything that's on a ball joint or a mushroom peg comes straight off. I typically find the hips on my figures get quite loose quite quick, so that's where the flathead screwdriver comes in, as that's a nice way to try and pry the two halves of the crotch apart with minimal damage. Okay, so Optimus looks like he's got in a fight and lost, but that's okay, because this is where we can begin the surgery. We're going to take our superglue and we're going to apply a very thin layer to the edges of our joints and the sockets. This is where that Q-tip can come in handy, as we can use it to spread around our glue and also clean up any potential overspills. You do not want to run into overspills if you can help it, as it's very easy to have it run down the side of your model and then you have an ugly streak no matter what you do. So take your time and be patient. Now, the reason we wanted these parts disassembled is so that they can cure individually. But when it comes to pinned joints, it's usually a lot more tricky to remove the pin and get that apart. So what I typically do is I stretch the joint so that I can get access to the underneath part as easily as I can. Then I once again add a thin layer of superglue to the inside of that joint, and then I rock it back and forth while it's curing. I cannot stress this enough. Do not stop rocking the parts until you are certain that the glue has cured. Otherwise, you're gonna fuse your parts together. Ask me how I know. So, continue doing this around all of your joints until you are satisfied with your new tolerances, and now we can begin the reassembly. So as you can see, this process is nice, quick, and easy, but you might find that after you pose him a little bit, he's gonna get loose again. Don't worry, because the more you do this superglue strategy, the longer the times will be in between you having to do it again. You see, PLA is a thermoplastic, and what that means is that heat causes it to melt, and joints need friction to be nice and tight. But friction generates heat, causing your parts to go soft, causing them to be loose. If you add enough layers of superglue, eventually it's not PLA touching PLA, it's superglue touching superglue, meaning that the friction won't cause it to heat up again and go soft. So I know this video was shorter than I normally do, but that's because this process is just nice and easy and there's not really a lot to it. Now, not enough people really talk about the maintenance side of prints. It's always about getting your printer tolerances dialed in right, getting it nice off the bed, but they never actually talk about the fact of what happens if you play with it for a bit, right? So I hope you found this video useful, and if you liked what you saw and you want to see more, feel free to subscribe, and I'll catch you next time. Farewell! Hey. Hey. Okay,